Hey everybody, I'm back here with one of my favorite people in the world, Reverse Butcher. Hi darling, how are you?
Hello, hi, how are you, Sarah?
Great. Today we've got another really exciting book to talk about, and once again, you have helped me bring this into the world. So the book that you and I made together is this book by Benjamin Charles Paulsen, a very, very dear friend of mine who tragically passed away many years ago. That book came from this original art diary that he made over many, many years. Now, his widow and I, Penelope, her name is. Hello, Penelope. Love you, beautiful woman. Mwah. She and I had been talking about making this into a coffee table book, and that was Benjamin's dream as well. So I've got you here again today, RVB, to talk about the process and how you helped me turn this amazing original art book, which really I have gloves on. This is so precious. It's crazy. So yeah, when did you first? Yeah, when did you first see this? When did we start this project?
God, it was, I think, 2000, the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, maybe? No, it was definitely 2018. I think you had told me about Benjamin's work and you had talked to me about how he had made artist books, much like the one that I'd made with On the Rod. The idea of an artist's book, of course, for somebody who might not be into it, is not necessarily just a book about art. It's generally like a one off or a small run of a handmade book. And they range in sort of style and I guess value in terms of like zines, which are like handmade photocopied books, sometimes stapled, sometimes stitched, to like one off, art diaries, much like the one Benjamin Paulsen made, or On the Rod, where you've got one copy of something and it's very difficult to duplicate.
Yes, and we're going to do another interview about On the Rod because that's your amazing, precious art book, and I want everybody to see that as well.
Sure.
I've known Benjamin for a really, really long time, and I basically watched him create this book. And as you'll see, it's not attached yet properly. Now you say that it's possible to do it, but I'm afraid that the pages might be damaged because each one is this beautiful, heavy art paper. And
Oh, so
you're familiar
beautiful.
with what materials he used. He used a lot of gold leaf, shellac, acrylic,
Tar, he
and
had like
yeah,
a beer can, so it was metal that had been flattened and then sewn into it. This was so my jam. I loved this project. It was such a delight and such an honor to work on something that this was this imaginative and this intricate. Look at that. It's shellac. It's shiny. That's not supposed to be in a book. There it is. Fucking wonderful. I love it. I love it.
yeah,
Yes.
that's
Sorry, I get excited.
absolutely. Oh, I've always been excited looking at Benjamin's work. This is only one of the things that he did. He painted larger scale paintings. This painting right here
Oh, is
uh,
that one of his?
was a study. Yeah, that was a study of a massive, massive painting that he painted with red ochre, the
Oh,
stone.
wow.
And so he
Wow.
used all these beautiful that's why a lot of his work has got a very Australian feel to it because he's used literally the dirt from the Australian landscape to make these Australian landscapes. And he was well into windmills. Obviously, he was a kind of greeny, lefty, punk, sort of crazy anti-establishment guy, which is, as you know, also what I love. But he was also really fascinated by the symbols that really affected the West, like that he called that the dynamic ribbon, but it's the Coca-Cola swirl. So he kind of got into a lot of the popular culture imagery and thought a lot about it and knew how incredibly powerful it was. And then he became obsessed with circles and targets and things like that. Plus, he had kind of a religious upbringing, so
Yeah.
he a lot of the pictures have things like the Sacred Heart and Mary and all of that
And you've got the
and
cute,
religious
the
iconography.
little doll as well, which is up on the screen directly below you. That's a pull-out page from in between. So these pages are not just pages. Quite often they're actually pockets that have been sort of folded and sewn together. So there's pages within pages. Love it. It's like a labyrinth of a
Yeah,
book. It's a masterpiece.
that's right. It's
So you can
so
physically
every
pull
now
them
and then you'll
out.
get a piece of string. And I don't know if anyone out there remembers the series Griffin and Sabine. It was these two imaginary people writing to each other and always planning to meet with each other. And each page had an envelope stuck to it, and you could open the envelope, pull out a letter, open up the letter, and read the letter. And I just always been obsessed with Griffin and Sabine and the mystery and the secrecy of it. And I think Benjamin's book has a lot of mystery and secrecy inside it. If you remember, when we were working out the titles for each page, because
Yes.
obviously it's an art diary, but also each page is a work of art. So we had to work out what the artworks were called, and sometimes they were hidden so deeply into the painting that you needed a magnifying glass to find these incredible. So when you get your book, you need a magnifying glass to find all the titles that meant so much to him. And that was the best fun with you, finding all the titles, because sadly he wasn't here to ask,
No, he
and
wasn't.
that was just, yeah. So I we made this book with the permission of Benjamin's widow, and the reason I wanted to make it is because this real book is too precious to be handled. I mean, look at me, I'm wearing gloves. I want everyone to be able to see the contribution that Benjamin made to the art world. He wasn't famous. He decided to be a stay-at-home dad towards the end of his life. So he's wasn't prolific, but his art is all over the world. I sort of helped to promote that too. But yeah, a very short life and a short output, but he definitely deserves to be remembered. And that, I think, is why mostly I wanted to make this book.
Well, that idea of remembrance and honoring somebody's work, artist books are really clever at that, because what they can do is they can condense a large amount of work, a volume of work, into something that can be carried with you. It can be sent places. It's easier to send than a painting. Obviously the original is very precious, and needs to be kept as such. But in terms of being able to get it out to the general public, or to at least collectors who do artist books or libraries or museums and that kind of thing, when you have a high quality duplication, it does mean that this thing can, have a voice in posterity. So it's important.
Yes, and so I really want to thank you for helping me with that, because your history is, not only are you an artist in your own right, but you are an editor and you make books yourself. And so I just feel so lucky that I know you, that you could help get that incredible thing into something equally as incredible, and you can sort of rough it up a little bit more than the original.
Well, look, Sarah, it was actually a real pleasure, because it's really not every day that you get to come across a project quite like that. I mean, on my journeys to the various state libraries around Australia, I always go into the rare books and the artist books section, and I ask the librarian to bring me out what they have and what are the best parts of their collection, and they bring me all these treasures. But I think in many years of doing that, I haven't quite come across something that was inventive in quite the same way that Benjamin's work was. It was a real surprise, a real delight. So yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, and you're fussy.
Yeah. I am a book snob. It is true. I'm an art music book snob. If it's not up to scratch, I'm generally a little bit evasive. But no, in this case, you have a habit of doing this to me, Sarah. It's like you ring me up and you're like, Butcher, I've got to show you something. I'm like, okay, what is it? Because every time it's something amazing. One time you dropped a violin in my lap, and this time you brought Benjamin's Brook and dropped it in my lap. I'm always thrilled when you call me. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that's great. So Reverse Butcher, everyone, is referring to our book that we made together,
Yes.
an iBook, Apple iBook. This is not a violin. It is a doorway, all about the painting of my Spur semi-acoustic violin. So this is the second interview in the series of 3 interviews. The first one was all about the painting of the violin. This is not a violin, it is a doorway. Today is all about text by Benjamin Paulsen. And coming soon, we're going to do your On the Rod, and everyone will be able to see that artist book. And that is when I first met you, was when you were sitting on a couch and you were actually making that book, and I was blown away. Anyway, that's for the next interview.
It is.
So if anyone wants one of these, obviously I'm not a publishing house, but we can get these very easily. We just order them one by one, or if I get enough orders, I can do a bigger run of 10 books or whatever. So you can have your very own. Just get in touch with me through Facebook. It's Sarah Curro, or Sarah Curro Interviews. But yeah, just get in touch then and give me your details, and I'll let you know how much it's going to cost, because it costs different every time. Okay, and
Print
if
on
you
demand
guys are
can be
watching,
like that. Print on demand can
print
be
on
like
demand.
that.
That's right. And if you guys are watching through YouTube, then there'll be an email address in the description that you can contact me. But yeah, it's a really precious thing, and whether you knew Benjamin or not, it's just really worth supporting. So if there are any profits or whatever, which there usually aren't, then I just send that extra money to his widow Penelope, because he left behind also some very beautiful children, and I want them to also see that his work is continuing out into the world, even though he is not. So yeah.
Well, Sarah, I have a couple of questions about Benjamin, because I actually never had the pleasure of meeting him, although I feel like I've got to know him on some level through his work. That's nothing compared to what your experiences knowing him as a friend must have been like. So I wondered, how did you meet Benjamin? Tell us the story of how you met him.
Okay, so I think I've said this to you before. He was difficult to like.
I know. I like that.
Totally, absolutely. I'm going to be totally honest with you. All
Yeah.
the things that we struggle with about masculinity now, he had it. And he hated it about himself too. He was a really interesting person. He had the violence and the aggression and the arty angst and all of that. And I had the accidental skill of being able to calm him down, put him in a good mood. I didn't feel that was a burden or anything, but I just had this knack with him. And because he had a very strange relationship with the idea of women as maybe as property, as objects, he thought about this stuff all the time, and it really affected the way he had romantic relationships with women. I'm happy to say I never did. And it's because I wasn't family, but I was our 2 families were extremely close. So I was like a kind of distant cousin. And look, I tell you what, I'm just going to read a paragraph from the back, because it sums up how I met Benjamin.
Oh, perfect.
I won't read the whole thing.
Okay.
I'll just read a little bit. Okay. I met Benjamin in my early 20s. He was the son of my very first string orchestra conductor. Hi, Monica O'Neill. I hope Monica O'Neill's watching this, because that's who Benjamin's mum is.
Oh.
And, yeah, as the little brother of one of Australia's greatest ever cellists. Hi, Sue Ellen. I hope you're watching. Facebook's great, isn't it? Okay, so, and he and I had known of each other for years. Another thing in common was that we were both someone's son or daughter or little brother or sister. We didn't mind, though. It was much better to ride in the slipstream and be famous by association than to actually pave the hard road ourselves. We laughed about that all the time. So then I go on to say we met at Salamanca Place in Hobart. I was just at a cafe, and up he came, and we discussed our past and how we knew each other, our families knew each other. And almost immediately he started calling me Mame. I don't know if anyone's seen the 1958 Hollywood film Auntie Mame. Now, she's this wonderful middle-aged, gregarious party woman, and she would wear the headbands and the beautiful patterns and caftans and so on. So he would always call me Auntie Mame, because I just made life a party for him. So what else? We shared rage and righteousness, and somehow found everything funny at the same time. But to me, his art was so moving and deep and full of pain and chaos, and I was hooked. So then I go on to say how I took his art to Hong Kong, and it's very interesting. Musicians especially bought his paintings. There was some deep connection that his work had with other arty types, you know, and so that was kind of amazing. My friends in Hong Kong, Jim Bosnos and Linda Stuckey, they commissioned a piece from him. James Buhan, my old flatmate, bought a piece. Donna Orbovich, a flute player in the orchestra. So all these musicians just really related to his artwork so deeply. And yeah, it was sort of, yeah, I'm going to read this next paragraph because it basically sums him up as a person. Anyway, we had an idea back then to turn his very personal art diary into what he innocently named a coffee table book. This was a strange name coming from him. He rode Italian motorcycles, never washed his hair or clothes much, and drank endless G&Ts, listened to punk, Portishead, anything with edge, and never stopped talking or smoking. The idea that someone like him would even own a coffee table, let alone want to turn his art into something to decorate one, was relatively benign for him. Personally, I just wanted to get it into print so people would stop touching the original. But back then, one had to be published by an established house, so we just couldn't. He wouldn't believe how easy it is today, and I believe the use of these technologies, had he experienced them, would have changed the way he made his art. Kind of in the same way as what you do. I mean, anyway, yours will come next, but technology has definitely changed the way he would have responded to it just perfectly. You know, I can see you two doing something together. So anyway, I just want to show the audience the headstone that his widow Penelope designed. So there's the Sacred Heart, the Coca-Cola style writing, and there is a picture of him. What a scallywag. What a scallywag. So yeah, I'm really happy that we managed to do that. So get in touch if you want to buy one. And yeah, that's it basically.
Great. Well, I think you answered almost all the questions on the list in terms of about Benjamin at that point. I suppose the other one I had that was on the list that didn't get addressed there was that the first time that you'd seen an artist book or like an art diary done in that style? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like that
Yeah.
in my life. I mean, to have, how many pages is it? Like 60 pages, and each page is a work of art. This is like, to me, this is a $100,000 thing that I've got
Yeah.
in my hand right
Yeah.
here. I mean, who knows how to value something like this? He
It's
was
very
an
difficult.
unknown artist, but my God, this is a life's work diary in art form, and I'm just can't believe it's sitting on my desk right here. I'm going to get it back to Penelope ASAP. I just wanted to do this interview first. So yeah, this is unbelievable to witness, and I do hope it ends up in a rare book collection in a museum somehow. You're going to have to help me with that too.
We can talk about how that process goes around, but yeah, either you or Penelope or a combination of the two can submit it to various state libraries and collections, and offer it to them for sale and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks a lot for helping me out with this. You're just incredible.
Pleasure.
And if anyone wants a book, just get in touch with me through Facebook, in the comments in the description of YouTube. And yeah, keep being interested in living artists, people. It's really, really important.